Hey guys, what's up? I hope that you read your Utopia versus Dystopia informational text and started on the graphic organizers. And I hope that you kind of have a pretty good understanding of a utopia versus a dystopia. Dystopian genre is my favorite genre to read. I love that post-apocalyptic genre where it's just sort of like the world as we know it's come to an end. This evil mastermind's taken over. I love those type of genres, and I love the characters that they bring. So the reason that I had you read this informational text is because we're going to start reading The Giver by Lois Lowry together. And this is a novel that has been up for debate for years because some people think it's a utopia. The community, the setting of the novel is a utopia, and some believe that it's a dystopia. And so our essential question that we want to have answered at the end of our novel is, in the setting of The Giver, is it a dystopia or is it a utopia? Now, as you can probably tell, it's going to be a little bit of an argument and a little bit of persuasion. How can I get you to understand what I'm saying when I say that it's a utopia or a dystopia? And how can I get you to see it my way? And so I want you to think about that throughout the novel. Once we go through this and we talk about the characteristics of utopias and dystopias and the types of utopias and dystopias that are created and their reasons for being created and just the basic definition, I want you to think about it as we read. Is this place a utopia or a dystopia? And I know that as you're reading, you're going to go back and forth many times because a lot of these characteristics of utopias and dystopias are fine lines between what is perfect and what's horrible. And so a lot of it is your personal opinion. Something that one person might think was great and they would love it, another person would think it's awful and they couldn't do it. So I'm really interested to see how you react to this book and how you come up with your answers and your arguments for utopia versus dystopia. If you've already read this novel, which I'm sure a lot of you have, let's just go through it together anyway, because, you always find something new the second time around when you read something. So let's get started. So the informational text here, Utopia versus Dystopia, there is subheadings for each one of these. You may have seen them. And this should have helped you answer your graphic organizers better. This should have made it a little bit simpler. Now, I didn't directly say that you had to follow ACE format. So if you did, great, you're awesome. But if you paraphrased, I'm also not mad at you. So let's go through this and let's discuss it because I want you to have a good idea of what a utopian society would look like and what a dystopian society would look like too. So what is a utopia? A utopia is a term that was coined by Thomas More in his book Utopia in 1516 while describing a fictional place in the Atlantic Ocean. It is a play on the Greek prefixes ou, meaning no or not, and eu, meaning good. So literally it means good place and no place, implying that a utopia is a perfect place that does not and will not exist. So it's a place that is perfect in respect to politics, laws, customs, and conditions. They are international communities that attempt to create an ideal society. So in these places, no one is arguing about politics and the way things should be done and the religions and things like that. Everyone is on the same page and they think the same way. That's why it's seen as perfect, because no one has anything to argue about. What is a dystopia? So dystopians are seen a lot in books and movies to portray the end of the world as we know it. It can be compared to world domination, A dystopian society is different than a horror story because in a dystopia, it's not just about one person who acts bad in an otherwise sane, normal world. A dystopia, in a dystopia, everything from setting to minor characters is focused on this one evil premise. So think the Hunger Games versus It. If you've seen the movie It, the clown is the only bad thing in this normal world. But if you think about the Hunger Games, then you realize that everything that happens and everything everybody does is based around this evil premise of the way the world is run. So simply, a dystopia is defined as a bad place where no one wants to live. It's a place where one's rights and freedoms would be gone. A place where environment would be devastated. What are characteristics of a utopia? So if you did bullet points here, that's fine with me. You didn't have to write it all out. Bullet points were in the text. But in a utopia, you will find a peaceful or benevolent government. Benevolent means kind or generous. You would find equality for all citizens, free to think independently, safe, favorable environment, access to education, healthcare, employment, etc. So here, as you can probably tell, there is no government who starts drama. There's no arguing over things that are happening in the government. All citizens are treated fairly and equal. You are free to think the way you want to think, and no one's going to judge you or tell you that you're wrong. The environment that you're in is safe and it's favorable. That means it's nice and it's green and it's lush and it's healthy. You don't have to worry about pollution. People who don't recycle, people who litter, things like that. There's access to education, healthcare, employment. You don't have to worry about how you're going to go to school, how you're going to pay your medical bills, how you're going to find a job, etc. The thing about a utopia is that everyone in this society thinks the exact same way. So there's no one who says, I think differently than you, and that's okay. Everyone thinks the same way. What are characteristics of a dystopia? So propaganda replaces education to control citizens. Propaganda being lies, rumors, them just telling you things to get you to believe it, to have more control. Information, independent thought, and freedoms are restricted. Citizens are perceived to be under constant surveillance. Citizens have a fear of the outside world. Citizens live in a dehumanized state. Dehumanized, we see the word human in there. Ized means to make, and D means not. So they are not living in a way that's respectable or good for humans. They're not treated as humans. The natural world is banished and distrusted. Citizens conform to uniform expectations. And individuality and dissent are bad. So if you live in a dystopia, you're controlled by the government who tells you lies. So whoever that government is, that could be someone who makes themselves president. That could be someone who makes themselves king or queen, whatever. They control you by telling you lies or rumors to get you to fear any outside world that might be there, to get you to distrust them so that you don't go looking for somewhere else to go. They're going to make you think there either is nothing out there or what is out there is so much worse than where you are right now. Citizens are often watched and surveilled, whether that's walking out on the street, playing with your friends while you're at work, while you're in your home. citizens are conformed, or they conform to uniform expectations. So that means everyone has the same rules. They all have to do the same things, whether they want to or not. And individuality is bad. They don't want you to be yourself. They don't want you to think for yourself. They want you to follow these rules and expectations that they've set for you, and they want you to think that it's the only way that you could live. So, what are some different types of utopias? So, the types are the reasons people get together. Not everyone who wants to live in a utopia would work together in a utopia unless they have the same beliefs as one another. So it takes something binding to get people to want to come together and live together. So for utopias, some of the types of utopias might be ones for religious beliefs. So you would come and you would live together if you had the same religious belief. That could be because you are religious or you're not religious. But either way, maybe you're tired of religion arguments, so you want to come live together. So think the Amish. The Amish community, they all have the same beliefs, and so they know that they are different than what the other parts of the world feel. So they come together and they live together in this type of community. Another type would be humanism. It's beliefs that stress the value of goodness of human beings and strive to respect everyone, and they view everyone as equals. So a commune. People who live on communes is like a walled off remote area where people who just have the same beliefs of human respect and equality would go to live. Everyone there would be equal. You would all be expected to do the same things. No one really is in control of anyone else. You just do it based on that common respect of each other as human beings. Then we have science and technology. Science and technology are embraced and enhance lives. Life is easier, it's more convenient, we live healthier and longer when it comes to science and technology. So think Star Trek. They all live on the Enterprise, where there's science and technology for eating and for healthcare, and they live to be hundreds of years old. And so that's all thanks to science and technology. I've never heard of one, and so Star Trek is about the best I could come up with as an example for science and technology. Then we have economics. In an economic utopia, money is abolished, and abolish means done away with. It is no more. Citizens only do the work they enjoy. So you don't have to worry about having to do a job you hate just so you can make money to pay bills. You don't have to worry about where you're going to pay for anything because you don't have to worry about a paycheck. You don't have to do something you don't like to do. You get to go out and just be whatever you want to be. I couldn't really think of a good example of an economic commune, even whether it was book, movie, whatever. So my example was none. And then the last type is ecology. Ecology is back to nature. It's humans who live in harmony with nature and reject industrialization. So they just want to live with nature. They don't want to live in a place that's got a lot of buildings and roads and cars and pollution. I was thinking at first, like the movie Utopia, where they have all those sections of their world where they live based, but they're not really humans. And so maybe Tarzan. In Tarzan, they go to live in the jungle because they want to live in the jungle. Think about hippies in the 60s and 70s. Hippies wanted to be with nature. It's also always about peace and love and not polluting and just being happy with where you are and who you are. Okay, so characteristics of, or types, sorry, not characteristics, types of dystopias. So dystopias present a world in which oppressive societal control and the illusion of perfect society are maintained through different types of control. So that's the whole point of a dystopia, is to be controlled. So one type is corporate control. So one or more large corporations control society through products, advertising, or the media. So think Ready Player One. If you've read that book or watched the movie, basically IOI controls the entire United States because of the products that they have. Everyone wants this virtual reality system, so they market it. It's on every billboard, it's on TV, and they just keep making these awesome attachments and things that go with it until they've controlled everyone. Everyone's under the spell of this virtual reality world. No one goes out in the real world anymore. Second, we have bureaucratic control. So this is controlled by mindless dictators. It's a dictatorship. There's tangles of red tape, relentless regulations, power-hungry government officials. So think Hunger Games. At some point in this Hunger Games world, they got tired of a United States as we know it, a democratic society, and one person took over and became president. He divided the United States up into districts. Each district has to do one thing. They're known for that one thing, and that's what they have to do. And they're told that they have to stay in that district. They're told they have to do the Hunger Games, even though they don't want to. They're not allowed outside the fences around their district. So it's just all this stuff that keeps people in their quote-unquote rightful place. The third one that we have is technological control. Now, we saw with Utopia, technology could be a great way to keep everyone who has the same thoughts and things together. But in this scenario for a dystopia, technology is control because society is controlled by technology. So they're controlled through computers, robots, and other scientific means. So think The Matrix or the Terminator. Robots control everything. People with machines are controlling other people. Robots are taking over people's jobs and the role of humans. Think a society where robots are your police. So therefore, you can't get away with anything because there's no human emotion attached to it. And then the fourth one we have is philosophical and religious control. So society is controlled by philosophical or religious ideology, often enforced through a dictatorship government. So philosophical means your just beliefs, not necessarily as a religion, but just your beliefs as a person. Your beliefs in doing the right thing, your beliefs in obeying the law, things like that, your beliefs in how people should be treated, etc. One person or one government decides they're going to control everyone based on their way of thinking, not caring what everyone else's thoughts are. That's where that no independent thought comes into play. So think The Handmaid's Tale. If you or your parents or someone has seen that on Hulu, it is about a government who takes over parts of the United States and forces them to live in a biblical, religious type way. And they are confined here. They're not allowed to escape and go anywhere else. So these types of dystopias, while they could be utopias, it's different because it's being forced upon them instead of a choice by them. All right, guys, so I hope that you learned a lot about what defines a utopia and a dystopia and how they can walk a fine line between being the same and being different. And I hope that you keep these things in mind as you question yourself throughout the text, whether the text, the giver, is based on a utopia or a dystopia. I'm really excited to get started with you, and I hope that you enjoy the book.